GM, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is Tuesday, the 19th of November, and let's get straight into the charts. And we can see that Bitcoin is consolidating. So we are still in this consolidation that I spoke about yesterday. I talked about us being in this triangle pattern where we're seeing higher lows for price. However, we're seeing equal highs or very, very slightly lower highs, but the highs are obviously coming in pretty close to each other here. So I know I did put this on as a wedge yesterday, but we got a little bit of a fake out from that. And for now, for me, it seems obvious that it's probably better to draw this as an ascending triangle. Bitcoin does like these ascending triangles in bull markets. I very much remember the previous bull market in 2020 and 2021, where Bitcoin would go into a habit of putting in these triangles on the 4 hour. And this would then more often than not, lead to some continuation. So I'm fully aware that there's a few things that we spoke about on the channel that have caused us to get a little bit cautious. If we just flip onto the weekly chart, then you'll see one of those things we're talking about is this Tom DeMark 9. So this is the Tom DeMark sequential indicator. And typically in trending moves, you will see that when these nines come in, which is pretty much nine candles, nine bullish candles, when a nine comes in, you can often get a consolidation or a pullback. We saw this with the nine here, where we saw it at the top of an uptrend. We got some pullback here. Here we got a bit of a pullback and some consolidation as well. So it doesn't have to happen, but it's one more thing to look at. And obviously, if we're starting to combine this with the fact that obviously we've exploded to new all-time highs, we're actually coming in just above this trend line here, which is connecting the highs from the previous bull market, then there is obviously some reasons to be cautious right now. I would just say, and I would just add to this, that we are kind of at a level here where I just, based on the 4 hour pattern, based on the fact that we are seeing this consolidation, and things are, things are looking more bullish than not for me for another pop higher. I'd be very surprised if Bitcoin just sort of breaks down and rolls over here without us actually popping higher. And if I look at the liquidation heat maps, then we can also see that we're starting to have a build-up of orders just above price, or should I say liquidations just above current price. So I haven't actually looked at this yet today, but I'm quite curious to see where we are in terms of these liquidations. And as we can see, we've got a pretty sizable chunk now of liquidations around the 93,000 level. So if we just go back to our chart here, we can see that if we got above this area, this top line of our triangle, that is coming in around about 93,000. So I'd be very surprised if we roll over without coming up through 93,000 and taking out those liquidations. And, potentially, if you're bearish, I guess what you want to see is for those liquidations to get hit, probably for Bitcoin to paint a bit of a wick here, and then potentially we come over and consolidate and sort of then come down maybe towards this 85 level. The other scenario that I think personally is more likely, that we sort of come up through this 93K level and we run a bit higher. Potentially we get to 96, potentially a little bit higher. I'm not too sure if we'll go straight up to 100,000 by the end of this month. I don't know why. It just feels like potentially Bitcoin's going to come up and maybe sort of consolidate here. Then we actually see a bit of rotation happen, because this is the other thing that's concerning me. I think at the moment, altcoins are still really lagging behind when it comes to Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin dominance is still up at 60%. And if we just zoom out and look at the weekly, I'm still expecting us to get up to a point whereby this looks to top out around about sort of 60 to 62%. And then we start to see a bit more altcoin rotation. So potentially we get another push up in Bitcoin. This runs a little bit higher, and then we start to see a bit of rotation into alts whilst Bitcoin starts to cool off. Maybe it cools off just under the 100K level. I kind of think when Bitcoin hits this 618, we might be in for a little bit of downside. And that's when we might get our first decent pullback, our decent correction. So what I'm thinking is most likely is that Bitcoin comes up, it consolidates then under this 100,000 level. Obviously, people start to think of 100,000 as a target, and then we sort of maybe wick up there into that level, and then Bitcoin sort of cools off. And obviously, whilst Bitcoin's consolidating up here, potentially that gives altcoins an opportunity to run. Obviously, just looking at maybe the scale of this, just going on to the daily, potentially we see a move up this week, consolidate into the end of November. Altcoins have a week where they start to outperform. Then Bitcoin makes a correction, potentially back down to 85, potentially as low as 80. And then we go bullish again in December and finish the year strong. And potentially it's in December when Bitcoin takes out the 100K. So I'm just saying, just be a little bit cautious. Obviously, that we're tying with our weekly Tom DeMark. That we're tying with obviously hitting those liquidation levels. So I think there are, reasons to be just a little bit sort of, I wouldn't say bearish, not at all. I'm still very bullish, but I just think there's reasons to maybe be a little bit cautious as Bitcoin approaches 100,000. And also, I just feel like some of these altcoins, they just haven't run at all yet. They really haven't run at all. And I would expect to see the altcoins run a little bit further until we see a more sizable pullback in Bitcoin. So I do favor some consolidation. I mean, say for example, during this consolidation, we were seeing Bitcoin dominance come down more, we were seeing altcoins run, then I would be a lot more nervous here calling for Bitcoin to push on higher, because this would be more of a sign that we're getting more froth into the market. But obviously, as things stand at the moment, we're not really seeing those signs. I know that fear and greed is high. I know that people are taking on excess risk now, but I think things can probably push a little bit further. I think a lot of people are starting to call for pullbacks here, and there's just no real sign of that right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we do push up to new all-time highs today even, and then, like I say, I'm expecting some consolidation in Bitcoin altcoins to have a week or two in the sun, and then maybe we get a bit of a correction at that point. So looking at Ethereum is had a better day yesterday. It's just really chopping here. It's obviously pulled back a bit more than Bitcoin has. It's consolidating. Obviously, it's down on the day. Bitcoin's up on the day. So again, Ethereum really struggling to get going. If we just look at our weekly, we spoke about this trend line connecting obviously prior all-time high with this cycle's high, and what I'll be looking for is if Bitcoin pushes up to say sort of the high 90,000s, just shy of 100,000, takes out those liquidations above 93,000, then I do think Ethereum, with Bitcoin consolidating just under 100K, could then push up to this trend line here. And potentially on the first attempt, it might get rejected. Maybe that coincides with Bitcoin sort of cooling off. But I do think in December is when Ethereum's likely to start to outperform. And obviously, I think at some point, probably with Bitcoin above 100,000, Ethereum then takes out this trend line here, and we see Ethereum ultimately catch Bitcoin up. I do think Ethereum is looking relatively good value compared to the other majors. If we look at Solana as well, then Solana showing really impressive strength. Obviously, we talked yesterday about it having a weekly Tom DeMark sequential 9. We also talked about this Fibonacci extension target here, the 1.618. So I do think that Solana is at a point here where it might consolidate a bit. It might struggle to break above. Obviously, if Bitcoin pushes up again, it's hard to see Solana not coming up a little bit higher and running into its all-time highs. And that is probably my next target for Solana. I do think Bitcoin probably pushes on, Solana probably follows, and it finds some consolidation around previous all-time highs, and then potentially we get Ethereum making a bit of a leg higher in terms of a catch-up. Looking at Pepe as well. So we've said Pepe looking very strong. It's running to its point 1.618 extension 2, and just really I'm thinking Pepe probably cools off for a little bit for a week or two here before trying higher. We just go down to the daily, we can see we're just really consolidating sideways here. But I think, like I say, fairly bullish on Bitcoin, looking for another push higher. That probably helps Pepe take a run higher too. And then DXY into an area of resistance. So as we've spoken about, we're looking for this swing high to kind of prove as a area of resistance on the DXY. Obviously, the DXY also on its Tom DeMark sequential 9 next week. So obviously a week behind Bitcoin and crypto. So potentially what I'm thinking is Bitcoin takes another leg higher over the next few days, probably by the end of this week, if it's going to. And then we see, obviously, the dollar push up a little bit into its 9. And then potentially Bitcoin consolidates, pulls back, and then it looks to get going again once the dollar starts to pull back, which, again, I expect there to be about a week's lag between these happening. So I'm thinking Bitcoin probably moves a week ahead of the dollar. Like I say, it probably has its pullback before the dollar pulls back. And then when the dollar pulls back, it's likely that that provides a nice boost to cryptocurrencies to push on. And we can see stock markets still consolidating, really. We just go down to the daily. We can see not much happening yesterday, pretty much sideways here. I do think stocks will get reaccumulated shortly and try for new all-time highs again before the end of the year. NASDAQ also green day yesterday. It's likely that these get reaccumulated. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching today. If you have enjoyed the stream, please do like, please subscribe, because we come up with these streams every single day without fail. I'm not going to leave you alone during this bull run. We're in this together, and we're going to definitely make it through this bull market together. And yes, definitely go and check out some of my other videos if you've not done so already. There's plenty of videos that I've put out on meme coins and what are my highest conviction picks for this bull market. We've obviously seen some of those start to perform well already, with Pepe getting a breakout, with things like WIF and Bonk also getting breakouts. So that's definitely the part or the area of the altcoin space that I feel is the best area to position in. I think the best thing to do here is have an allocation to the majors, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Pepe being a major sort of meme coin exposure, and then probably the final position of your portfolio goes into some of the other meme coin picks. Obviously, there was a video done at the weekend as well in terms of, if you're new to crypto, what I'd be putting into a portfolio right now. So if that's something you're interested in, please do check that one out. Otherwise, I will be back same place, same time tomorrow with another update. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and talk to you again later. GM.